Hi, welcome to the 9th edition of the Juneau Garden. We're going to take a look at my gardens today. Behind me you'll see cannas plants that a friend of mine gave me the roots for, the bulbs for past spring. And I have them planted here up on top by my house, behind my shed. This is an area where I thought could be some problem because of morning shade, but these look the best. They are really coming well. They'd be looking even better if it wasn't for the Japanese beetles. Excuse me. Darn things. In the background is my vegetable garden I have on some lower land behind my house. My philosophy when planting this garden was to plant a lot of vining plants, and then the vines would grow out and cover up the ground and keep down the weeds. I think I succeeded in that. The vining plant down here that has been the most aggressive, wide-ranging and growing is my pumpkins. There's 4 plants in here, and the roots are down in there somewhere. But notice how they've grown out here, climbing here through the cannas plants I've got down here. And over here, extending, all over here by my zucchini. All right, so we have some vines over here. Well, there's a pretty good looking one right there. About the right size. I like to pick them. I have one tomato plant over here that kind of got separated from the other tomato plants. It got separated here by a pepper plant that's right in here. See if there's any peppers in there. There's one small one in there. There's a couple other small ones in there. All right, but they've got a little bit of room to grow here. The disadvantage, of course, of having lots and lots of vines, it becomes difficult to find some of the cucumbers. This is much too large for what I'm looking for. And I think there's some more just like it near where this one was. All right, down in here. I obviously missed this spot. But there's a few in here that I should be able to pickle. So my cucumbers, again, very difficult to pick just because it's hard to walk and move the vines. They're growing up in here amongst the cannas plants. And I'm kind of using the cannas as a little bit of an arbor. Get them up out of the air, off the ground, make it easier to pick. In here, my watermelon. I've got 4 plants in here. And I was in here picking cucumbers the other day, and I found a really nice watermelon sitting right in here amongst the cucumbers. I don't see it. Here it is, right there. So we've got at least one. I'm sure there's more, but they are kind of hard to find. Remember those pumpkins I was telling you about? Here in the cucumber patch. See, it's starting to turn yellow a little bit. So they're growing all over the place. There's another watermelon right in here. Oh, big cucumber. And another pumpkin. These plants right here are my squash. They're a winter squash. It's butternut. I planted these late. I couldn't get them to germinate in my cold frame, so I ended up planting them late, and when I got some other seed. And I, oh geez, are they ever going to be able to come? And 2 weeks ago, I found some on there. They were about 2, maybe 3 inches long. Let's go see what we can find. We'll get over there and we'll find them later. But right in here we have tomatoes. If you saw my earlier programs, you know that this year I decided not to stake them because I've had such bad luck staking tomatoes. And even though I tried to prune these a little bit, get rid of the suckers, they are just a mass of tomatoes down here. I think that slows down the ripening somewhat because you don't get enough sunlight. Although we did get one very nice tomato that we ate about 3 or 4 days ago. My slicing cucumbers are right in here. Here's a couple very large ones. Yesterday, I took, probably 10 of them to the Catholic Church in Horicon for their food pantry. There's a little watermelon, and I have some ripening tomatoes. These are early girls right here. See if we can't find any more in here. No, just lots of real nice, good-looking green ones. Okay, here we have the slicing cucumbers again, and coming over top of the slicing cucumbers, going over top of, I should say, are potatoes. I think I have 4 of them down here. We had some that were budding out in the basement, and I just brought those down here. Here's where most of my green peppers are, and they're getting pretty thick. I have them on cages around them, which makes it more difficult to pick them, but they are ready to be picked too, some of them, and we've already eaten some. I think I'll be picking a couple of these later on today. I have green beans in my upper garden, which we'll take a look at later. But I was not having very good success with them up there, so I planted some later, and they're down here. They're just going to bud now. I also planted some kohlrabi down here, but they had some problems with getting washed out with some storms. But I see they're just coming right now. And these look like a purple variety. Second planting of corn is right here. And here's my first planting of corn. And it's ready to be picked. Well, let's go in there and see if we can't see what they look like. This one's actually a little bit riper than what I like. We had some a couple days ago that was really good. And after I get done with this program, I'll need to get down here and get this picked and taken care of. This is a variety called Bodacious, and it has its name for a reason. This is very, very good sweet corn. This is an all yellow. All right, there's a zucchini I'll be picking today in order to make some zucchini bread. Bonnie and I are going to be going to the State Square Dance Convention this weekend. And we're going to need some zucchini bread to eat as we take and live in our camper for a few days. And the other zucchini plants here. These I planted directly into the garden without growing them in the cold frame first, just because I forgot to plant them. And these are the nicest zucchini plants I've ever grown. I think that they just loved all the rain they got in this year up until now. Remember those butternut squash I was talking about? Well, they've gained some size. So I think we'll be eating butternut squash. This is a volunteer tomato plant. And of course, coming from a hybrid, only a part of the plant will be, it won't be the same as its original. So I really don't know what kind this is. Since it's a volunteer. Another squash down here. They're actually doing pretty well. I mentioned that I took cucumbers to the food pantry yesterday. That was just the second trip. And my guess is I'll be doing that again. They're really being prolific. There's a ripening pumpkin way over here. Another pumpkin, a couple pumpkins right here. That's a muskmelon down there. Can you see that? Right in there is a muskmelon. Pumpkins, pumpkins, pumpkins. And look what those Japanese beetles have done to the canis plants. Okay, this is my wildflower garden. I have a lot of milkweed in here for the butterflies. And there have been quite a few butterflies in here this year of different varieties, including monarchs. Right in here are the goldenrod. They're just now getting started and ready to blossom. And here is a flowering tree, probably a crabapple, that got planted by the birds. You can see that leaves have been chewed up by the Japanese beetles, unfortunately. Behind it is this red cedar that I planted in here. There's a monarch butterfly. Here are cone flowers. They're getting toward the end. And I think these are black-eyed Susans. Well, I don't want you to think I was a liar about butterflies coming in here. There's a white one behind there, and there we have a monarch on a coneflower. That's good to see. In one of my experiments, I planted some dill in a pot that I probably bought a tree or a kind of plant in many years ago. And it's now well developed, ready for pickling. Down in here in another pot, I have some kohlrabi. Next to that, German giant radishes. They're very good. One of the things I was really excited about doing this year was planting carrots in a raised bed filled with compost from the Juneau leaf site. And here's my bed right here. And let's see if we can't, oh look at that, it came right out. This one's a little bit stubby, but we've had some other ones that are about this long. And they look like there's a lot of them in here that are doing very, very well. And fresh carrots are really good. And here we have turnips. They're doing very well as well. Have a short row in here. We can't eat them fast enough. They've been growing so large. I have never grown hot peppers before, but this year I was going to try making some salsa. So I've got two plants right here. I don't know what the variety is. Let me see, we'll swing around here. I've got a few little peppers growing in here. So we'll see what that's like. Some more dill and a second crop of spinach. I oftentimes don't have much success with broccoli, but this one's looking pretty nice. Got one right next to it. The cabbages have been coming very slowly. They're only now just beginning to head. And a friend that I square dance with says he's got some that are big and hard and ready to harvest. Here are leeks. I've never had leeks before, so that's going to be an adventure. Here's my second hot pepper plant next to a rock in the garden that's supposed to heat up the soil in the springtime when the sun shines on it. And two more cabbage plants. I have a row of beets right along this edge of this raised bed right here. Some are looking okay, other ones look like they're going to take forever. And here's the last bit of the kohlrabi in here. These are planted directly into the garden as seed. The ones, of course, that I had in the cold frame. I began in the cold frame. Were eaten a long time ago. All right, here's the beans. This is the problem I was discussing a little earlier. So the leaves are all dying, all brown. I took it to the master gardeners and they sent the information to Wisconsin, I'm sorry, the Wisconsin Extension Office down in Madison. He said, well, it might be bugs. Well, I looked for bugs and I didn't find any bugs. So I'm going to tear these out and get rid of them. I can't be having any diseases up here. Well, this plant right here is probably, or plants, there's more than one in here, is my most disappointing plant. This is a muskmelon. It's an heirloom, but I don't know, it's just not right in this part of the garden, I guess. It's just not responding. This is actually in a hugelkultur, but just not growing. We have one tiny little plant right here, or muskmelon right there. There's probably more in here, but I'm very disappointed in that. My Roma tomatoes don't have any size to them, although there are tomatoes, and we'll be eating those pretty soon. Kenny knows making sauces, and this year makes some salsa and more dill. Actually, this dill I transplanted from the lower garden. It was a volunteer from last year, and I planted it up here. This one is doing pretty well. This is a Rose of Sharon plant that I planted maybe 8-10 years ago up here on the rock pile that my house is built on. This is a white variety, of course. See the blossoms here? There are a lot of blossoms that need to open up yet, but this is what my white Rose of Sharon plant looks like. Excuse me again. Bugs. And this is my other Rose of Sharon plant. This is built on lower ground, and it is really loving the weather this year. It's all kind of leaning this way from an earlier storm this year. Just kind of pushed everything in this direction, so I picked the right direction to shoot it from. Those Japanese beetles are relentless. Oh, thank you for watching.